Hello and welcome back to Factorio. Today we'll start a two-part series here that will go through asteroid processing for early and late game and what I have learned playing a couple of 100 hours on Space Age. This kind of design is what I'll be using exclusively going forward. So, before we start, this setup requires a three-part sushi belt. If you're not familiar with what a sushi belt is, it's using the same belt for multiple different items and controlling how many, ideally controlling how many of those items are on said belt. So on this innermost belt here that we have around our production, we'll have ice, carbon, and iron ore. The only thing that we really need to power a spaceship in the early game is ammo and fuel. And it's very simple to make. Now, if we look around the crushers here, this sushi belt will contain the three asteroids, so metallic asteroid chunk, carbonic asteroid chunk, and oxide asteroid chunk. And this basically will be our buffer. We'll have a couple of asteroids in here running, so these can produce constantly if they need to. They don't need to wait for an asteroid to get grabbed here by the collector and then go all the way around and then in here, because there's some sort of a delay. And we want to try and ensure that whenever we need something in our production, for example fuel, we're ready to produce that as soon as possible. Now, the collector part, where we'll start, is the way I do it here is highly personal preference. I know there are other ways to do this, and you can grab all the different asteroids with one of these collectors. But I prefer doing this way. Now, all of these will grab a different kind of asteroid and use their inventory to store them. And if the sushi belt needs something, it's going to be output on the belt. So the way we do this is we're going to read this belt with a circuit condition, reading all belt contents and hold all belts. So we're reading whatever is on this sushi belt at all times and sending this via the red signal to the inserter. And the inserter will input something to the belt whenever stack size here is more than what's on the belt. And now this reads a 1 here because I'm using this constant combinator to set the filter, which incidentally also outputs 1 asteroid chunk. So if we set stack size to 10, there will be 9 on the belt. Stack size you can find under the signals part down here. I usually like to try and use these icons because I think it makes it a bit simpler. And for the asteroid collector, I just use that to set filter, and we read the green signal from the constant combinator. And this is basically the same thing for all of these, but these are set to carbonic and oxide asteroids instead. And same for the constant combinator. Now you could, for example, have one constant combinator here that sets the stack size for this belt, which would make it a bit simpler. But in instances where maybe you want to stack up some extra ice, you can set this stack size individually. That's up to you. Now all of these asteroids will go on the inside part of the sushi belt, which means that the outside part is going to be used for our ammo. So asteroids and ammo will be on the same belt, which means that we can place down a turret here, for example, and just grab ammo directly from this belt at all times. We can also, with the same principle, read the belt and say that whenever we have less than, I don't know, 50 ammo, we'll output something. This is really useful if you have different ammo types, for example, and you want rockets and firearm magazines on the same belt. You can control how many of those they have. So, now that we have grabbed all our asteroids here, sent them into the sushi belt, and they come over here to the crushing. These, I actually forgot to set a filter here as well. That's very important. These will grab asteroids based on the condition again. So I will set a stack size here. Let's say I want 10 of each. So I'm sending this signal to all of these three, and they will now be like, okay, I need 10 in here of oxide asteroid chunks, and it's going to start enabling these. You can see that this is waiting for source items. And if it's full, it's going to say disabled by control behavior. And then inside here with the crushing, they will always be fed with something. I make sure to set filter here to the asteroids, so the 20% or so chance, I think it's 20%, yes, the 20% chance that we get an oxide asteroid chunk, it goes back to this belt, and it doesn't go into our production belt, polluting this belt. And it's the same principle for all of these. In regards to the output here, either we, I prefer to do it this way. I prefer to set individual levels for this. So we're gonna want a set amount of ice, for example, carbon, and iron to go in here. And same here, we just read all belts, hold all belts. Now, this is not really necessary, but these will put everything on one lane, and I prefer to have a more stacked belt than that, so I can fit more things into it. So I just use a splitter and load stuff on the other side. This is the incorrect side, like that. So you get both sides saturated. And that's it. This will never jam unless we set these limits too high. So if we go ahead and say that we're gonna start this up by setting these filters to 10, we'll unload the asteroids. We can also say that we want 10 chunks in here, and let's say we want probably more. Let's say 50 ice, 50 carbon, and 50 iron ore. That will now start producing and going through our small system here. And the smelting and everything will start immediately. We'll grab the ice for the fuel. And we'll grab iron ore and carbon to produce the fuel. And we are done. That's it. We can see ammo now made its way to the turret. And this will never jam, and it solves one of my main gripes with how Asteroid processing works. And the fact that these ratios, especially if you look at the advanced one, you get 10 iron ore and 4 copper ore. And what that means is that you probably never need 10 iron ore and 4 copper ore exactly, or 5 carbon and 2 sulfur, 3 ice and 2 calcite. There was always something to throw overboard. And with this setup, I never have to throw anything overboard. This will just produce when it's needed, and when it's not needed, it's going to idle. And that was the main goal of this design. Hope you enjoyed that. It was cool for me to get some of my thoughts out and think about how I'm gonna implement this in my Shattered Planet ship that I'm planning to make soon. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a really nice day.